Good morning. It is Valentine's Day, Thursday. Quickly, there was a post on, I want to say it's Powerlifting Motivation. A guy that I know, Dustin Reed, made a post about off-season training, and I'm condensing here, talking about addressing your weaknesses and a process in which to do that. Sometimes doing things that maybe we don't typically do or may not even enjoy doing. Typically, for most of us, there's that one lift out of the big three that's kind of your albatross and is a pain in the ass. And like for me, it was deadlifting. So does that mean I had to hammer the training? No, it did mean that I had to address things. And how did I address those things leads to me agreeing with Dustin's post. I had to go, my deadlift is weak, assess it with some honesty, without my ego, and go, what is weak about my deadlift? And so I would pick one thing each training cycle, and I would work on it to bring my deadlift up. Now, I ultimately pulled 700 pounds. Now, that is not an enormous deadlift by any stretch of the imagination, but it's certainly respectable, and I did it as a master lifter. I was in my mid-40s when I pulled 700. But what it did do is it brought my deadlift up enough that it helped me build a total, and I was able to ultimately, also as a master lifter, total 2,400 pounds. I'm pretty proud of that. Again, it's by far not the biggest total in the world, but 2,400 was a lifetime goal for me. And how I did that is each training cycle, I would assess what I felt like it was a weakness. I would pick one, maybe two things per training cycle and work on that. But I also would make sure that what was strong, I did enough work to maintain that strength, to keep cultivating it, so to speak. The thrust of all this is there was a post by a young lifter. I don't know if that's in age or just time in the sport, where basically he said that Dustin's post was very generalized and really didn't apply to novice lifters. And he was a novice lifter. And that he could be maxing out all the time and should be, and PRing every week. I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. I have built a client base on people just like that. I've got people that are at the intermediate to even, advanced level that have trained with that methodology. And here's what happens. They become injury prone. All progress tends to stop, even with digression, and then they're extremely tight. And I'll use an example of a lifter. I was at a meet this past weekend that actually Dustin was the head judge and judged one of the lifters that I coach, Big Mike. And Mike had not totaled 1,500 pounds when he started training with us about 15 months ago. His biggest squat was under 500. He had pulled 575 and benched 405 officially in the meet. 425 he got called because he beat the press committee. So 15 months later, Mike, who's put on about 30 pounds of body weight, squatted 534, I think it was. I think that's 295. Benched 501 with both lifts room to spare. He's had some tightness and tweak issues, and this is a result of an old injury that had nothing to do with lifting, and then the way he trained, and he would echo this statement. And so he had a little bit of trouble this training cycle with his deadlift, but missed 650 on his second, got a little over the bar, hitched it a little bit. It was turned down 2-1, which was the right call. And so we just repeated it, and he hit the lift. And I can't remember the total, but I remember him telling me that he is, in that time, from the beginning of his training with us to now, he's added roughly 180 pounds to his total. Now, whether you agree or disagree with going 9 for 9, the way you build your total is hitting attempts and making smart attempts. And that's what Mike has done. And what we have continued to work on is things that are an issue. We try to pinpoint one or two things per cycle, because there's not really an off season. Everybody always seems to be competing. For example, Jennifer Milliken, she lifts at nationals each year. If she wins or makes the team, she goes to worlds, and in between that, the last few years she's been invited to the Arnold, which, and not this weekend, but a couple weekends we're headed that direction, as she will be lifting at the Arnold. And one of the things that I will tell you is that success rides on the fact that she and Mike and other lifters that I coach were always assessing and always addressing things that will make us better. And that's always going to be, attacking a weak point. And there's never a time, regardless of how new you are or how advanced you are, there's never a time where addressing a weakness is a bad thing. It really needs to be a priority. And that may be technique, it may be a body part, it could be conditioning, it could be any number of things. And in this day and age, the beauty of all that is that you have things like powerlifting motivation, even though a lot of times, a lot of the postings are, I guess a lot of that is my age, so I'm kind of that get off my lawn kind of guy. But you get past the fluff of all that, and there's some really good information out there. And so I would heed this, advice, and I would suggest, if you have questions or you have concerns, get a coach, hire a coach. I don't know what Dustin's price structure, and he didn't ask me to say this, and I'm happy, to tell you what mine is. But the great thing about this information age is you can get coaches, they're at your fingertips. I belong to the AppLift team, and so it's a great resource. But always be addressing your weaknesses. Always strive and find ways to improve. And if you're having trouble being motivated, that's okay, because you're not going to be motivated 100% of the time. And Jennifer Milliken's another great example. We both have won world championships in different federations, and there's times where you just go and you just do your best to get it done. And, because you're committed and you're disciplined, motivation will only take you so far. So anyway, I hope this lends some credence to what Dustin is saying, and I hope it will make you guys look and assess your own lifting and performances and go, ultimately, what is the best route for me to go to improve? And that's always going to be addressing a weakness, cultivating what's good, and perhaps, for many of you, it sounds like, finding a good quality coach. All right, best of luck, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day.